Hey there, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Suhr Classic T Polonia model. I've been using this guitar as one of my two main gigging instruments for the last couple of years, so I feel like I have a pretty in-depth understanding of its pros and cons, and I'd like to share that. So I bought this guitar new in July of 2021, and unlike my Classic S, on which I changed out the bridge pickup and the knobs and some other things, I haven't changed anything on the T. So whatever I talk about is the experience you would have if you bought it and you just opened it right out of the box. So first off, I just love looking at it. You know, being able to see the wood grain through the finish is really, really nice. To me, T-style guitars represent a beautiful simplicity in guitar playing, and seeing something natural and organic like a wood grain pop through the finish it just enhances that feeling for me. I love the shell pink. It's always been one of my favorite colors on Strats and Tellies, and in person it's really subtle and calm looking. It's not a very busy color. The finish on the neck is very smooth. Your hand just kind of glides over it with no resistance. It has a bit more gloss than my S does, and maybe I've just worn it down with playing, but I did notice that. Despite that, you know, your hand doesn't stick to the back of it like some really high gloss necks I've played, even if you get real sweaty on a gig or whatever. The purpose of this video isn't to compare these two guitars, but I will say if I had to give a playability trophy to one of them, it would go to the S. And that's not a critique of the T at all. The S just sets such a high standard. It's like the easiest guitar I've ever played. The T, the neck's a bit thicker, and you kind of have to wrangle the notes out a little bit. But I kind of like that feeling when I'm playing, you know, a Telly. I have large, spindly alien fingers, so a bigger neck feels good for me. I used to own a Music Man Luke 3, and I don't know if Steve Lukather's hands are just smaller than mine, but it was very cramped for me, especially, you know, around the 1st to 3rd fret. And that's why I ended up selling it. It was uncomfortable to play, but I haven't felt anything like that with the T at all. I think neck comfort is the single most important aspect you can think about when you're shopping for a new guitar. And the T and the S as well, they just have the most comfortable necks I've ever played. And so there's no walls between the stream of consciousness from your brain to your hands. And I really love that about these instruments. As far as tuning stability goes, I couldn't be happier. I even thought that the S with its floating trem had incredible tuning stability. So of course, T-style with a hardtail is going to be even better. The locking tuners are great, and since the build quality is exceptional, has ended up being the most reliable and consistent instrument I've ever played. The stainless steel frets, they just don't wear. I've had the S for about 6 years now, and I've played this guitar a lot, and I still have a good bit of life left in the frets, and I just got this 2 years ago, so I know I won't have to mess with them for a long, long time. And that's confidence inspiring. You know, it's such a reliable instrument. I know I won't have to really do anything to it for a long time. Next, I want to talk about tone. The T is the best sounding guitar I have ever owned or played. I could sit here and record 1,000 clips of me playing it at home and, in this sterile environment, but I would never be able to truly communicate to you what this guitar sounds like in a live setting, how it sits in a mix on a loud stage, in a small club or on a wedding gig or whatever. And in that setting, this guitar just shines. It has a very unique character to it. The neck pickup is super fat and warm, but still has tons of clarity even when I'm sounding out big chords. It's such a beautiful and full and rich sound. The middle position has so much character. I think it's the voice of this instrument, and I know Tellys in general just have a unique middle position sound, but this guitar kind of hypes that up, and I just love hearing it, and it really stands out in a mix, a live mix especially. And the bridge pickup, it's got bite, it's got spice, it's saucy, but it's never shrill, and it soars when you're like going for a big bend with some gain. Open chords just shimmer. It's a really nice pickup. On a live loud gig when my amp is like searing, this guitar it's magic. Its sound is great. I'm sure its clarity and character can be mainly attributed to the pickups, but also Suhr used a fairly unique tone wood when they built this guitar, Paulownia, and I want to talk about why the Paulownia is the coolest tree ever. Whoopsh. Paulownia is a genus of about 15 different tree species, and it's a prehistoric native tree of North America, so right off the bat, Suhr gets points for using a native tree for its tone wood. It was once believed that this tree was introduced to North America in 1844 from Europe and Asia, where it was used as an exotic ornamental tree, and its fruits were also used as packing material for shipping goods from East Asia to North America. Because of that, Paulownia groves began sprouting up near major ports because dock workers would dump the fruits and seeds after shipping. In the 1960s, Charles Smiley, who was an American botanist, discovered 500 separate leaf fossils in Ellensburg, Washington, and they were soon identified as belonging to ancient Paulownia trees. These fossils were dated to the late Miocene to early Pliocene periods, and they're nearly identical to the leaves of the extant Paulownia species, Paulownia tomentosa. Paulownia macrofossils have also been discovered from Pliocene fossil sites in Italy and Georgia, and the global climate at this time in history would have been more than suitable for the Paulownia genus for the entirety of the Northern Hemisphere. So these trees have been around for a while. They were originally called Pavlovna trees in honor of Anna Pavlovna, queen consort of the Netherlands and daughter of Tsar Paul I of Russia, and they're often called princess or empress trees because of this history. Paulownia is known as kiri in Japan, and it's used as the symbol of the office of Japan's prime minister, and Japanese kobundo, which is a type of gold currency. Its wood is used for many culturally significant traditions, such as building ornamental chests, boxes, and clogs. The wood itself is burned to make charcoal for sketching and powder for fireworks, and its bark is used to make dye. Nearly every Japanese home contains a Paulownia wood chest of drawers called a tantsu. In Japan, as well as China and Korea, it's used for making the soundboards of stringed instruments, such as the gukin, the gaozhang, pipa, koto, and gayugim. Paulownia is a very stable wood with a straight grain, and its beautiful flowers are rich in nectar, increasing biodiversity by attracting wildlife. It's incredibly resistant to rot, and its canopy is sparse, which means that plenty of sunlight can reach the ground and provide nutrients to other plants. It's not a very selfish tree. Paulownia wood is very soft, but it does have an extremely high strength to weight ratio, even higher than balsa wood, and these trees grow incredibly fast and without warping, often climbing 20 feet in a single year. It's the fastest growing hardwood on Earth, and some species can be harvested for timber in as little as 5 years. Once harvested, these trees regenerate from their existing root systems, like fungi, earning them the name of phoenix tree. This is part of what makes them such a great option for guitar building. Due to their growth and regenerative nature, it's a very sustainable wood to harvest, and some companies are beginning to use it as a stand-in for the popular but relatively unsustainable swamp ash, due to its similar weight and tonal qualities. The legend goes that in terms of resonant frequencies, Paulownia has a bit more low-end punch than swamp ash. Paulownia is such an awesome and unique tree, and I think it's super cool and inspiring that I get to play an instrument made from it. This guitar has two main Paulownia specific qualities that I want to talk about. Some people might consider these downsides. I don't, but I would understand if you do. I don't think either of these things take away from my personal enjoyment of playing it. Number one is that Paulownia is a very, very soft wood. And what this means is that this instrument dents and dings very easily. I had the battle scars to prove it, despite how well I take care of my equipment. It doesn't take very much to leave a mark, but in the last few years, I've tried to change my perspective on how I feel about aesthetic defects in my gear. It used to really, really stress me out knowing I had marked up my guitars, but recently I've begun to view marks as what they are, which is symbols of a time that I spent doing something that I love, which is making music for myself and for other people in an effort to make all our lives just a little bit better for a night. At the end of the day, that's why we do this, right? We love making music. We love doing it for ourselves. We love doing it for other people. I have this one significant dent in my headstock on the T from a moment on a gig in which I was so excited and energized that I accidentally smashed. And I mean, I absolutely crushed the headstock into a mic stand. The guitar is completely fine, so points for Suhr's build quality. And that dent will forever remind me of an amazing night of my life. 1,000 years from now, if I were some alien anthropologist looking for fossils on Earth, and I happened to find this guitar somehow preserved in some rubble pile, I would use the marks in it to speculate on the nature of human behavior in the 21st century. Creating music and sharing it with each other is one of humanity's most ancient, important, and cherished cultural traditions. And I try to view blemishes in my equipment as something that connects me with that tradition, a tradition that I love. This always leaves me feeling uniquely human. All of that hippie nonsense aside though, to each their own, and if having an easily marked up instrument would keep you from enjoying it, just know that that is an aspect of owning this guitar that is very real. The other quality of Paulownia that is a benefit is the weight. This is a very, very light guitar. I think it's 6 pounds and 7 ounces. So that's awesome, of course. But this guitar does have some neck dive. There just isn't enough mass in the body to counteract the weight of the headstock, and it dives. With my Classic S, it's very balanced. So when I have it on a strap in my body and I let go, it just naturally positions itself how I like to play. I'm a very sensitive person to mechanical differences in my technique. So when I try to play guitar and the neck is more horizontal to the ground, my left hand feels incredibly cramped and restricted. So I like to have my neck closer to my face where I can see it. I feel like I have more stretch in my left hand. And the T just loves to dive down horizontally. I feel like I'm Nerf Felder when I play this guitar, unless I hold the neck up. I have no idea how he plays with his hands way down there. It's amazing to me. Of course, this doesn't matter for tons of scenarios. Like if I'm just sitting at home practicing, I don't feel it at all. But when you're on a gig and you're standing up and your guitar feels different than what you're used to, it's going to be kind of shocking. I've noticed that over time, my right hand has just started to pin the guitar body to my hip. And I don't know if this has affected my right hand technique at all. I don't know. I don't really notice it at this point, but it was just something my body ended up compensating for. I could have adjusted the strap probably and put something sticky on the inside, but my body just took over and now I don't even notice it. But I think it's something to consider. People have been dealing with neck dives since Gibson was a thing, so I don't have much more to say on it. The only other downside I can think of, and I consider not even putting it in this video because it's a really minor gripe, but after every single gig I play with this guitar, I get home and I lift my shirt up and I'm like, oh man, ow. And there's always a big old bruise on my hip. And I think that's just a telly thing. I mean, it's a slab of wood. It's not really contoured. And I keep my strap a little bit high. So when I'm jumping around on stage, you know, this guitar just slams into my hip. And I'm pretty thin, so there's not much in the way of that. The S never hurts me. So I thought I would put that in the video to let you know that this guitar is violent. It wants to hurt you. Honestly, I don't have much more to say about this instrument. It's incredibly well built. It sounds amazing. The build quality is exceptional. It's reliable and consistent. It's really nice to look at, and it's made out of a really cool tree, so I don't know what more I could want, honestly. I absolutely recommend this guitar and any guitar that Suhr makes. I've played these two models a lot, and some other musicians I work with have Suhrs, and I've played their guitars a lot, and they're all amazing across the board. These are world-class instruments, and they are worthy of any stage. I don't think you're ever rolling the dice when you're buying one of these, just because of the build quality, the quality control, the customer service. What you see is what you get, and what you get is truly something fantastic. Thanks for watching, and if you have any specific questions about owning and playing this guitar or my S or any of the gear that I use, just leave it in the comment section and I will definitely reply. Best of luck in your musical journeys. Thank you again for watching. Never stop creating. Peace.